Lu Xiaozi is an S-class alpha, while I am merely an unremarkable beta. Thus, even though we became acquainted in high school, and despite my subsequent role as his personal assistant upon graduation, I dared not reveal the depths of my feelings for him. Later, upon learning of his impending arranged marriage, I penned a resignation letter in preparation for my departure, only to be intercepted by him and his associates at the airport. He pinned me against the wall, his sharp canines grazing the skin of my nape, his voice laced with icy disdain. Tell me, is it because I cannot mark you that you find it difficult to remember to whom you truly belong? 01. When Old Master Lu summoned me back to the ancestral home in private, I immediately discerned the purpose behind his request. Hence, when he produced a stack of Omega profiles, I feigned little surprise. With a gentle and amiable smile gracing his features, his eyes, however, were sharp and penetrating, as if capable of perceiving the depths of one's soul. Xiao Mu, he began, you have known Xiaozi since high school. Could you assist your uncle in discerning the type of Omega he prefers? Individuals of Lu Xiaozi's stature are endowed from birth with wealth, power, and status that many would strive for a lifetime to attain. The one aspect beyond his control, perhaps, is his marital fate. The elite families possess their own social circles, and even though the Lu family stands at the pinnacle of this hierarchy, they regard those struggling in the depths with disdain. However, matters of marriage should ideally be deliberated with Lu Xiaozi himself, yet Old Master Lu bypassed him and turned to me. I raised my gaze to meet the elder's somber eyes, clearly aware of his intentions, for my relationship with Lu Xiaozi is not a secret within the Lu household. I serve as Lu Xiaozi's personal assistant, and the emphasis lies not on the title of assistant, but rather on the term personal. To be precise, our relationship could be characterized as intimate companions. We harmonize in our work and share a certain chemistry in bed, yet that is the extent of it. After all, he is an S-class alpha, and I am a male beta with an exceedingly low fertility rate. Thus, the possibilities between us are virtually non-existent. Consequently, I have never disclosed my feelings for Lu Xiaozi, even in the intimacy of our shared moments, consciously suppressing any hint of emotion. The Lu family is one that places great importance on reputation. Should they choose to pursue a marriage alliance, all other relationships must be managed with care to avoid gossip and ridicule. I respectfully accepted the stack of profiles and began to peruse them with diligence. I could distinctly sense Old Master Lu's relief as the tension in his brow eased. What kind of Omega does Lu Xiaozi favor? This question lingered in my mind, yet my thoughts involuntarily drifted to memories of our passionate encounters, where he would whisper heatedly in my ear, his breath warm against my neck, his voice husky. Baby, your waist is so slender. Darling, you are so fair. Mumu, your legs are truly long. I cleared my throat softly, redirecting my wandering thoughts, and meticulously examined the profiles of potential marriage candidates. I analyzed their familial backgrounds, personalities, interests, educational qualifications, and moral character, ultimately selecting 4 individuals whom I deemed most suitable for Lu Xiaozi. Old Master Lu, these are the candidates I believe would be most compatible with General Lu. Old Master Lu took the profiles and set them aside without a glance. I understood he likely already had a candidate in mind. My presence was merely to inform me of Lu Xiaozi's impending marriage, urging me to withdraw gracefully. After all, Lu Xiaozi currently wields the power within the Lu family. Compared to Old Master Lu, Lu Xiaozi's methods are far more resolute, even ruthless. He is undeniably a prodigy in the business realm, having seized control from his father at a young age, making Old Master Lu the fastest elder in Lu family history to relinquish authority. The Lu family tradition entails raising multiple children, instilling in them the art of business, teaching them to seize resources, and molding them into formidable figures. Ultimately, they are taught to forsake useless emotions and engage in self-destructive rivalry. Only by vanquishing their siblings and surpassing their fathers can one ascend to power within the Lu family. Old Master Lu was relatively young when he ascended to his position at the age of 25, while Lu Xiaozi is the youngest ruler in Lu family history, assuming his role just past his 20th birthday. Thus, it would be easier for Old Master Lu to suggest that I leave on my own accord. Xiao Mu, he mused, you have been with the company for nearly 6 years. It's rather uncharacteristic of A's to neglect your promotion. You see, his brother has recently opened a branch in M country and wishes to appoint you as the branch manager. What do you think? Lu Xiaozi's brother is an alpha with a physical disability. He is infertile, and thus lost his claim to power in the initial struggle for control, exiled from the Lu family to forge his own path in M country. Old Master Lu's arrangement suggests He perceives me as an unremarkable male beta, hoping to pair us together, considering my low odds of conception. However, he seems oblivious to his eldest son's situation, as Lu Chongning has already found his own omega there. I suppressed my emotions, feigning surprise, and solemnly replied, "I will defer to the chairman's arrangements." Just as I uttered those words, a commotion at the entrance drew our attention. Lu Xiaozi stood there, his expression impassive, brow slightly furrowed, betraying his displeasure. "What arrangements? Zhou Mu, you belong to me, you need only heed my commands." Upon noticing Lu Xiaozi, Old Master Lu discreetly tucked away the marriage candidate profiles into the cabinet of the coffee table, then spoke nonchalantly, "Why didn't you announce your arrival?" Lu Xiaozi's gaze fixated on that cabinet, yet he said nothing, merely responding coldly, "You summoned my person without informing me, did you not?" He turned to see me still seated, and with a discontented click of his tongue, he added, "Zhou Mu, are your legs broken? Why are you not coming here at once?" I hastily gathered my belongings and followed him into his car. Lu Xiaozi drove us straight to his villa, and as we entered the underground garage, he suddenly locked the car doors. Confused, I turned to him and asked, "What's wrong?" His gaze darkened, brimming with intensity. "What did the old man say to you?" I momentarily stiffened, quickly regaining my composure and casually replied, "He merely inquired about your well-being." He regarded me in silence, and I could sense the oppressive chill emanating from him, the atmosphere in the car growing heavy. I struggled to breathe, reaching for the window button to let in some air, only to have my hand captured and pinned above my head. He reclined my seat and leaned over me, his voice low and teasing, akin to a child coaxing a lie from another. "This is your last chance. If you do not speak the truth, you need not return to work tomorrow." I am not particularly adept at lying. The most convincing deception I managed was telling Lu Xiaozi that I did not harbor feelings for him. Beyond that, he can see through any falsehood with ease, prompting me to remain silent. He chuckled darkly, gripping my chin to steady my face, his tone dangerously firm. Such disobedience warrants a thorough correction. With that, he seized the back of my head and kissed me fiercely, deliberately biting my lip to punish me. Breathless from his kiss, I clung tightly to him, surrendering to the tide of our shared turmoil. 02. When I next awoke, it was already noon the following day. I glanced at the marks adorning my body and felt the lingering pain in a certain area, letting out a quiet sigh. If all goes as expected, Lu Xiaozi's heat should be approaching. Although I cannot detect his pheromones, from years of experience, I know that in the days leading up to his heat, his possessiveness towards me intensifies. This manifests in an abundance of bite marks on my skin, each one as if he aims to consume me entirely, melding me with his very essence. As an S-class alpha, Lu Xiaozi's heat is particularly arduous. His emotions spiral out of control, highly combustible and explosive, with desires that are more intense than those of typical alphas. I had initially planned to wait until his heat concluded before departing. Yet Old Master Lu's urgency has left no room for delay. During our last conversation, his demeanor had grown markedly more assertive. "Zhou Mu, did you not promise me that you would leave? Why are you still here? Do you wish to watch as Xiaozi spends his entire life with you, childless and alone? Do you intend to ruin our Lu family's century-old legacy?" I fell silent, at a loss for words, before finally responding, "I understand. I will leave as soon as possible." I had always known that our relationship was implausible. This awareness was what drove him to forcefully mark me as Omega during his freshman year when his sensitivity period erupted. Later, when he declared he would take responsibility for me, I coldly retorted, "I am Beta. You cannot mark me, and I do not harbor any feelings for you, so there is no need for responsibility." Yet, did I not waver even once? Indeed, I did. When I was captured by his half-brother and used as leverage against him, a knife pressed to my throat, they compelled him to kneel while a metal rod struck his back mercilessly. In that moment, he merely offered me a reassuring smile. Perhaps fearing for my well-being, he clenched his jaw, remaining silent. I suddenly recalled a time long ago when I was cornered by thugs in an alley, desperate for my living expenses. He had sauntered over casually from the mouth of the alley, casting a fleeting glance my way before dispersing my tormentors. I remember that day vividly. He stood before me, exuding an air of aloofness, saying, "If you do not wish to be bullied, I can teach you how to fight." Perhaps noticing my worn-out canvas shoes, he added, "It's free." I had heard rumors about Lu Xiaozi, that he was cold and unfeeling, devoid of the empathy one might expect from a normal person. I never understood why he chose to help me, but from that moment on, he became a beacon of light in my dreary existence, and it was then that I found myself falling for him. He appeared tall and imposing, yet I was weighed down in the mud, watching as he crumpled to the ground, blood seeping from his body, pooling beneath him. In that moment, I thought that if he could survive, I would surely be with him, even if his kindness stemmed from a sense of duty. But before I could voice my feelings, I learned of his ambition to ascend as the head of the Liu family, a position that could not exist without an heir. Thus, our relationship began to shift into something peculiar, ultimately reducing to mere bedmates. Perhaps because I had met with Lu's father, Lu Xiaozi had been rather vigilant towards me these past few days. However, upon observing that I was much the same as usual, he gradually relaxed his guard. Coincidentally, he had business to attend to abroad and was preparing for a trip. While assisting him with his luggage, he leaned casually against the door, arms crossed, gazing at me in a way that was difficult to interpret. Eventually, he approached, wrapping his arms around my waist, pulling me into his embrace. He leaned down, kissing my ear, his warm breath brushing against my face as he spoke in a tone filled with affection yet laden with unspoken implications. "Imu, you will always stay by my side, won't you?" For a fleeting moment, I felt as though he could see through my intentions, sensing my plans to leave him. However, aside from myself and Lu's father, no one else was privy to this information. Regaining my composure, I discreetly observed his expression in the large full-length mirror from the bedroom, which remained remarkably calm, devoid of any turmoil. "Why do you ask this all of a sudden?" I inquired. He lowered his head, inhaling the scent of my neck. Even though I bore no pheromones, he had a peculiar fondness for breathing in that area. A sudden kiss landed on my nape, sending electric shivers coursing through my body, causing me to tremble involuntarily. Lu Xiaozi's voice remained flat. "I don't know. I just feel as if you might vanish at any moment, so you will always stay by my side, won't you?" I barely managed to exhale, clutching the hand that encircled my waist. "Of course I won't." He gazed at me in silence as time ticked away, and at last he said, "Zhou Mu, do not deceive me." I buried the bitterness rising within me and feigned nonchalance. "I am not deceiving you. Now please let go, we have packing to finish." After hearing my promise, Lu Xiaozi became considerably more compliant. I meticulously checked the box containing the suppressants before placing it into the suitcase when he suddenly spoke again. "My sensitivity period is approaching. Accompany me, I do not wish to use suppressants." The more unreasonable Lu Xiaozi became, the closer his sensitivity period drew, likely within the next couple of days. Fearing he might impulsively take me along, I patiently soothed him. "There are so many matters to attend to at the company. I cannot spare the time. Besides, you will only be gone for a day or two. I can always catch up later, can't I?" After uttering that last statement, I hesitated as tears threatened to spill from my eyes. Seeing Lu Xiaozi look at me with confusion, I quickly buried my face in his chest to shield him from my gaze, gently patting his back and coaxing, "All right, no more acting out. I will wait for your return." Lu Xiaozi seemed to have been pacified, at least until he boarded the plane without causing further fuss. I watched him enter the boarding gate before turning back to pack my belongings. I had accumulated quite a lot. More than half of the items in his villa belonged to me, yet after sifting through them, I managed to fill only a small suitcase. Once done, I placed my resignation letter in his study. After completing all of this, I glanced back at the home that Lu Xiaozi and I had shared for nearly 6 years, filled with so many sweet memories. Yet, I ultimately was not his destined partner. With a soft sigh, I turned and closed the door, leaving without looking back. Naturally, I had no intention of going to the company mentioned by Lu's father. After years of earning some money, I planned to embark on a journey around the globe, eventually settling in a place I loved. However, upon arriving at the airport, I felt an inexplicable strangeness in the atmosphere. In the June heat, I found myself drenched in cold sweat, as if countless eyes were watching me from behind. I surveyed my surroundings, but no one seemed to take notice of me. Everyone was engrossed in their own affairs. I took a deep breath, an unsettling feeling bubbling beneath the surface. Yet until the boarding announcement was made, nothing amiss occurred, allowing me to gradually relax. However, just as I was about to board, several bodyguards in black suits appeared out of nowhere, surrounding me. The leader, whom I recognized all too well, was Lu Xiaozi's head bodyguard. He politely informed me, Mr. Lu wishes to speak with young Master Zhou. The situation had become clear. The business trip abroad was merely a ruse. Lu Xiaozi had been aware of my plans to leave all along, deliberately providing me with an opportunity to see if I would actually go. No wonder he had acted so strangely that day. I had mistaken it for signs of his impending sensitivity period, leading to his suspicious demeanor. The bodyguards escorted me to the VIP lounge. Lu Xiaozi sat on the couch with his eyes closed, and as he heard the commotion, he slowly opened his eyes, casting a sidelong glance at me, his gaze as frigid as ice, making me shudder involuntarily. He waved his hand lightly, and the bodyguards surrounding me immediately exited and closed the door. Before I could utter a word, Lu Xiaozi strode toward me, pushing my neck against the wall. His sharp canines grazed my skin, his voice icy. Tell me, is it because I cannot mark you that you forget whose you truly are? I felt a chill run through my body, gasping, Lu Xiaozi, please don't do this. I beg you. My greatest fear was his attempt to mark me. I was not an Omega, he could not mark me. I recalled the first time his sensitivity period spiraled out of control, leaving my neck a bloody mess. Since that moment, I admonished him that, regardless of the circumstances, he must never bite the nape of my neck again. He presumed my reluctance stemmed solely from a fear of pain. However, that was but a fraction of the truth. My greater dread lay in the instantaneous clarity that would seize me in such moments, plunging me into an abyss of unrelenting struggle and anguish. Lu Xiaozi scoffed softly, his voice husky. And what then? If you refuse to be marked obediently, how can you expect to retain my words in your memory, let alone refrain from fleeing? He lifted his hand and unfastened the top button of my shirt, fully exposing my nape. I immediately begged for mercy, my voice tinged with a sob. I was wrong. Ace, please don't do this. Take the suppressant first. Let us sit down and discuss matters calmly. His voice turned fierce, impervious to my pleas. No, Mumu. I offered you a chance, and it was you who rejected it. Upon uttering those words, he relinquished all restraint. In the fleeting moment of his descent, his sharp fangs pierced my skin, and he clamped down on my nape, flooding me with a torrent of pheromones. Overwhelmed by the deluge of sensations, my mind swam, consciousness fading, and I found myself powerless. Yet I knew this was merely the beginning. An alpha in their estrus phase is inherently volatile, and coupled with his seething anger, the loss of control was inevitable. Once he spiraled into chaos, his actions would be unyielding and ruthless, a state that would persist for 7 days and nights. Struggling to maintain consciousness, I sought to appease Lu Xiaozi while he still possessed a semblance of reason, hoping to temper his fervor, at least for a moment. I barely uttered a syllable before he swiftly covered my mouth, his teeth sinking deeper, as if punishing my disobedience with deliberate ferocity. I winced, unable to suppress a cry of pain. My voice was muffled within his palm, yet I was certain he heard. In the past, even during his estrus, hearing my cries of distress would prompt him to pause and bestow gentle kisses upon me. But now, upon hearing my whimper, he merely huffed coldly before biting down on my ear, his eyes glinting with malice. Remember this pain. Should you dare to leave again, I shall consume you piece by piece. Darling, must I resort to such measures for you to remain by my side? A chill coursed through me. Though I comprehended that his words were a product of his uncontrollable estrus, I could not help but feel a wave of dread. Perhaps sensing my trepidation, Lu Xiaozi released his grip on my mouth, enveloping me in the warmth of his sturdy embrace, imparting the heat radiating from his body. Are you frightened? What is there to fear? Simply stay by my side, and all shall be well. With that, he lowered his head to seal my lips with his, stifling any further pleas that lingered in my throat, and together we sank into the depths of desire. 05. When I awoke once more, I had lost all sense of how many days had passed. Lu Xiaozi sat at the edge of the bed, gently applying ointment to the bloodied bite mark on my nape, his touch tender as though he feared causing me further pain. I grimaced, unable to restrain a bitter internal monologue about his prior lack of gentleness during the bite. Lu Xiaozi, perceptive as ever, noticed my subtle gesture and raised an eyebrow coolly. Are you dissatisfied? Observing his demeanor, I was certain that his estrus had passed. Otherwise, he would not be sitting there with such composure. I decided to abandon any fear of inciting his ire. That night, did you plant a listening device in my phone? His face bore no trace of guilt, and he readily admitted, indeed. Infuriated, I struck the bed with my fist. If that is the case, then you must also be aware of your impending marriage. What reason do I have to remain by your side if you are to wed someone else? Am I to be a mistress? His expression darkened abruptly. How dare you speak of such matters? Are you relishing the opportunity to choose my bride for me? I stared at him, astonished. How did you know? He let out a derisive laugh. Oh, I'm aware that you meticulously reviewed those profiles multiple times, selecting 4 omegas deemed suitable for me. Am I correct? And let us not forget that your father wishes for you to meet with my brother, hoping to arrange a match between you two. You consented to that, did you not? As he uttered the last sentence, a dangerous tone crept into his voice, and I realized I could not afford to follow his line of reasoning any further. I could only imagine the turbulence it might incite within him, leading to further torment for me. I hastily reverted to the previous topic. Let us not dwell on trivialities. The crux of the matter remains that you are to be married. Thus our ambiguous relationship must come to an end. With a swift motion, Lu Shaozi struck my backside, causing pain that nearly brought tears to my eyes. He grasped my chin, his teeth clenched in frustration. What do you mean by an ambiguous relationship, Zhou Mu? Can you possibly lack all conscience? We have known each other for over a decade. Since the moment I marked you, I have treated you as my wife. You claim you do not like me. Very well, we shall take it slow. I will not rush you. Yet now you say our relationship is ambiguous. How is it not more fitting to call us friends with benefits? His voice crescendoed at the last phrase, and I, feeling guilty, fell silent. The look in his eyes made it evident that he understood my internal conflict. Lu Shaozi chuckled in disbelief. So, ambiguity is a compliment in your eyes? I have treated you as my wife, yet you go around proclaiming I am merely your friend with benefits. I muttered a weak rebuttal. I haven't said that anywhere. He retorted angrily, of course you wouldn't, especially since you still hope for me to marry and start a family. How could you let others know of our relationship? To be honest, you must find me quite repulsive. The news of my impending marriage must bring you some relief, for you can finally rid yourself of me. If it weren't for the alcohol that night, you would never have consented to sleep with me, would you? You must have long wished to be free of me, hence your decisive departure. I opened my mouth to explain, but suddenly realized this was an opportune moment. Lu Shaozi had reached this point, and I understood the struggles he faced. Though many proclaimed him young and accomplished, I was acutely aware of the effort he had invested. Surrounded by wolves, he could not afford a moment's negligence. Otherwise, he would plummet into an irretrievable abyss. Every word, every action of his was scrutinized by others. If they were to discover he chose to be with a beta incapable of bearing children, it would not merely be a fleeting dalliance. They would use his lack of an heir to undermine him. Taking a deep breath, I met Lu Shaozi's gaze unwaveringly, my tone imbued with an unprecedented sincerity. Yes, Lu Shaozi, I have never had feelings for you. If not for my inebriation that led to my agreement, I would not have wished to engage with you at all. What are you doing? I gasped as Lu Shaozi suddenly flipped me over, delivering 2 sharp smacks to my rear, as if seeking to alleviate his frustration, before turning me back and sinking his teeth into my collarbone. I was about to inquire about his erratic behavior when I felt warm tears dripping onto my collarbone. I was taken aback, suddenly at a loss for words. Lu Shaozi was not one to shed tears often. At least, in my recollection, I had never witnessed him cry. Even during moments of violence, he had never allowed a single tear to escape. I felt a rush of surprise and sympathy, and as I reached out to comfort him, I abruptly regained my composure. I could not afford to show weakness, and my hand fell limply back to my side. I remained motionless, allowing him to weep freely. Sensing my indifference, he paused, and upon raising his gaze once more, his eyes were frigid as ice. A mocking smile curled at his lips. Zhou Mu, you truly are ruthless. Lu Shaozi raised his hand and fiercely wiped away his tears, his expression dark and foreboding. Isn't everyone telling me to get married? Fine, I shall marry. As for whom I shall wed, that is solely my prerogative. Zhou Mu, you disgust me, and you do not harbor feelings for me. Very well, but you must understand that for the entirety of your life, you shall remain bound to me. He continued, as long as I draw breath, I will never release you. Therefore, you would do well to cultivate an affection for me, for even if my actions repulse you, I shall persist. In the end, it is you who will suffer. With those words, he discarded me and left the villa, leaving me stunned and alone in place. How did it suddenly transform into a tale of forced affection? Since that day, I had not seen Lu Xiaozi again. The villa was fortified with numerous bodyguards he had arranged, all of whom were thoughtfully selected to be betas. Yet, he deliberately ensured that my meals were seasoned with cilantro, a herb I loathed, forcing me to sift through my food each time I ate. I understood his intentions. He sought to provoke me into contacting him. And then what? Perhaps he hoped I would capitulate and placate him. Lu Xiaozi was, in fact, rather easy to appease. A slight softening in tone and a touch of charm would render him malleable. Otherwise, he would not have covered my mouth in the lounge that day. He did not wish to hear my pleas for mercy, knowing that he would relent and forgive me. Yet he was unwilling to grant me such clemency so easily. I sighed and opened my phone. The recent frenzy on Weibo was impossible to ignore. Rumors abounded that the head of the Lu family intended to marry a male beta of exceedingly low fertility and no notable status. Some claimed with conviction that my true identity was that of a youth from the Miao region, who had placed a curse on Lu Xiaozi, assuring that if he did not marry me, he would meet an untimely demise. Others suggested that I had taken compromising photographs of Lu Xiaozi to blackmail him into marriage, given my previous position as his personal assistant. In summary, the insinuations were that I had resorted to unspeakable means to compel Lu Xiaozi to wed me. This was somewhat understandable. After all, Lu Xiaozi was defying his entire family for the sake of marrying me. It was either that I had employed dubious tactics, or Lu Xiaozi had lost his mind. Naturally, they were reluctant to believe that a handsome, aloof, and esteemed S-class alpha would desire to marry a beta. I had no knowledge of the current state of affairs between Lu Xiaozi and the Lu family, only that one day old Master Lu called me, launching into a tirade. "You ungrateful wretch! Have you lost your senses?" How dare he openly challenge several of his uncles, proclaiming that if they had the capability to occupy his current position, he would gladly relinquish it. He took a deep breath and continued, "And you, I hardly wish to berate you, but after spending over a decade by his side, you allowed him to be taken back in less than half a day. You ought to show some resolve. Not only did you let him be captured, but you also provoked him. Now he is raging against the heavens and the earth, having wreaked havoc in my ancestral home yesterday. If he weren't my son, I might be at risk of being struck down by him." In resignation, he concluded, "I can no longer manage him. You must persuade him, for he only listens to your words." With a sigh of despair, I acknowledged the truth. Lu Xiaozi's current position was indeed precarious. While the Lu family had been the preeminent force under his father, it faced fierce competition from second and third place. However, since Lu Xiaozi assumed control, the Lu family had maintained an unassailable lead, rendering other families mere shadows in their wake. Thus, he could indeed make such audacious claims. Yet, he seemed to forget that should he choose to be with me without producing heirs, there would come a time when, as he aged and his vigor waned, those coveting his position would swarm like ravenous wolves, leaving him with nothing but bones. Ultimately, I managed to reach Lu Xiaozi on the phone. The call connected swiftly, yet silence reigned on the other end, as if he were waiting for something. Preparing myself mentally, I spoke coldly, my tone imbued with an unprecedented chill. "Lu Xiaozi, what madness has overtaken you? Do you not realize how tumultuous this all is?" He erupted in fury. "What madness? Is it so wrong for me to wish to marry the person I love? Why must I heed their arrangements to wed an omega I detest? The authority of the Lu family is not bestowed upon me by them. It is seized by my own merit. What right do they have to dictate my choices?" "Then marry an omega you adore," I retorted. He responded with a mocking laugh. "An omega I adore? Zhou Mu, are you truly so devoid of understanding? Do you not grasp whom I cherish? If you insist I wed an omega of my liking, let me clarify. I have always loved you." I opened my mouth, swallowing the bitterness that threatened to spill forth, before finally replying with my usual calm. "Lu Xiaozi, you merely believe you love me because I was your first. Engage with others, and you shall discover that your true affections lie with an omega." Silence prevailed on the other end for a long moment, only to be shattered by the sound of glass shattering. Lu Xiaozi's voice echoed with rage. "Zhou Mu, what did you say? Repeat that." I realized he was seething, and I ought not to press further. However, if this matter remained unresolved, it would inevitably become a lingering peril, or else he would be left with a profound disappointment in me. You should try engaging with other omegas. I have never harbored feelings for you. Do not squander your time with me, as it will only serve to disgust me further. Laughter erupted from the other end, a sound that pierced through the heart, and after a long pause, he ceased laughing, his voice rough and broken. "Jo Mu, if this is what you desire, then so be it. I shall grant you your wish." With that, he hung up. I stood there, dazed, clutching the phone, biting down on my lip to keep myself steady. This was how it ought to be. This was the path towards normalcy. Shortly after the call, all the bodyguards departed the house. I retrieved my old suitcase, packed my belongings, and left the villa. This time it was truly farewell. A month later, I found myself standing at the hospital entrance, clutching a pregnancy test result, utterly bewildered. The doctor had informed me that the child was nearly 5 weeks along, dating back to that incident at the airport. I had left Lu Shaozi due to my inability to conceive, yet now I bore our child. What did that render my previous actions? I placed my hand on my still flat belly and hesitated, contemplating whether to dial that familiar number. In the past month, Lu Shaozi had deleted all announcements regarding his impending marriage, and he had not interacted with any other Omegas. Daily, I encountered his image in financial news. He seemed to have grown more aloof, his gaze icy, devoid of warmth. He likely harbored considerable animosity towards me, and perhaps it would not be an exaggeration to say he hated me, given the many piercing words I had hurled at him. After much deliberation, I pressed the number. The phone rang for nearly a minute, and just as I began to think he would not answer and prepared to hang up, he picked up. His voice was devoid of emotion. "What is it?" The tone was cold and bureaucratic, lacking any warmth. I hesitated, then spoke. "I am pregnant." On the other end, there was a brief moment of disarray in his breathing, but when he next spoke, his tone was eerily calm. It felt like a mere figment of my imagination. "I will take care of the child." Perhaps it was the hormonal fluctuations of pregnancy, or the fact that he had never spoken to me with such coldness, but I felt an overwhelming sense of grievance, my voice trembling with suppressed tears. "Why should I? Because you find me repulsive, and you certainly will not treat the child well." His words were laced with a sense of hurt that was difficult to bear. I suddenly recalled that I had once uttered anything to distance myself from him. I pressed my lips together, glanced at the call duration, and hesitantly spoke. "At that time, I didn't mean to disgust you. Would you still be willing to hear my explanation?" I harbored little hope. Lu Shaozi was a paragon of excellence, possessing his own pride and dignity. Having repeatedly shattered his pride, how could he? If I didn't wish to listen, I wouldn't have answered your call. For a fleeting moment, it felt as though I had returned to a time before our rift, when, despite his anger, he was still willing to grant me the opportunity to appease him. I confided everything to him. On the other end, Lu Shaozi, visibly agitated, pressed the lighter, seemingly lost in thought, before tossing it back onto the table. "Jo Mu, is this truly the reason you wish to leave me?" His voice brimmed with confusion, bewilderment, and fury. I countered, "But the air is significant." He abruptly interrupted me. "What of the air? As long as I draw breath, they shall have to behave themselves. I became the patriarch of the Lu family solely to protect you. Had I known this position would lead you to such unfounded concerns, I would have dismissed it altogether." This was news to me. I had never contemplated that Lu Shaozi had assumed the mantle of leadership to shield me. I
am sorry, I murmured.
He inhaled deeply, his voice tinged with resignation. "Forget the past. I won't hold it against you. Where are you now? I shall come to fetch you." After a brief silence, he added, his tone turning stern, "But in the future, if you ever push me away under the guise of wanting what's best for me, I will not forgive you easily. Understand?" His words carried a semblance of threat, yet I found solace in them. Understood. After relaying my address to Lu Shaozi, he arrived swiftly. Having not seen him for over a month, he appeared to have lost considerable weight. As I approached him, intending to embrace him, he grasped the back of my head with one hand and kissed me fervently. After a long moment, he released me, burying his face in the crook of my neck, his voice muffled. "You heartless one, if you hadn't contacted me soon, I would have lost my mind." I gently caressed his back, softening my tone. "That won't happen again. Let us go home." He held me tightly. "Yes, let us return home." Epilogue. Lu Shaozi had never truly comprehended why he felt compelled to rescue the boy being bullied in the dark alley, even going so far as to teach him martial arts. From the moment of his birth, his mother had died during childbirth. Subsequently, his father remarried, neglecting both him and his brother. His brother, too preoccupied with his own affairs, had little time to attend to him. He was oblivious to the concept of love, which rendered him unaware of his immediate infatuation with Zhoumu. Later, an Omega confessed his feelings for Zhoumu. Although Zhoumu rejected the Omega, he tenderly wiped away the boy's tears. Consumed by jealousy, Lu Shao's instincts surged forth. It was his first experience of emotional turmoil. He desperately longed to mark Zhoumu. If he could leave his pheromones on him, others would recognize Zhoumu as his. However, he found himself incapable of marking Zhoumu. Thus, he resorted to keeping Zhoumu close, watching over him at all times. Yet Zhoumu refused to grant him a title, leaving him lacking the confidence to warn other men who coveted Zhoumu against harboring inappropriate thoughts. Fortunately, as the patriarch of the Lu family, his words commanded obedience, or else he would have felt like a mere fool. Eventually, after considerable persuasion, he managed to convince Zhoumu to agree to a live-streamed wedding ceremony. At last, he could openly declare that Zhoumu was his. The end. Thank you for listening. Until our next tale, farewell.